new handicappers at Sports Memo? If not, here's your chance. For the next week, you can take 50% off any and all purchases using code TRYMEMO. This includes anything and everything from daily packages to 12-month all-access passes. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do is go to sportsmemo.com, choose the handicapper of your choice, use the coupon code TRYMEMO at checkout, and save 50% on your purchase. Repeat as many times as you want until midnight on Sunday.
All right, guys, happy Friday because, well, there's 2 games left. 4 teams who's going to be playing for the national championship on Monday. Welcome in to the College Basketball Tip-Off Show powered by WagerTalk.com. We got 2 games left here, guys, on Saturday. Those games, of course, will include teams like UCLA and Gonzaga, as well as Baylor and Houston. And we are going to talk about both of those games here with a few of our friends from the season who are back in action with us here today. Those friends will include Marco D'Angelo in the house, as is Matt Josephs over at sportsmemo.com, Tony Mejia here, and, of course, Dave Kokin ready to rock and roll. And, guys, make sure you check out their Twitter handles, too, if you haven't done so. A lot of sports still going on, not only college, but, of course, you've got the opportunity with the NBA coming up with the playoffs, NHL, Major League Baseball. Make sure you're tailing these guys on Twitter, at Dave Kokin, at Marco in Vegas, at Mid-Major Matt, and, of course, at Mejia Dinero. And Mid-Major Matt, let me come to you first, my friend. Welcome in. It's been a hell of a college basketball season, certainly for you. How's it going? What do you got going on right now? And what's up at sportsmemo.com for you this weekend?
Yeah, a winning postseason so far, including the CBI and the NIT. So that's good. About 17 and 11 in all those tournaments combined. And for today, got a 4-pack of plays, 3 MLB props, 1 NBA prop, and I'm doing pretty well in the NBA props as I started doing them. 6-3 in my last 9. So if you're looking for something other than the lines and the totals, you can find me on Sports Memo, and I'm the prop guy.
You certainly are, my friend. And Marco, hell of a season, my friend. It's been a fun college basketball season as it winds down and we get ready to crown a champion on Monday. What do you got going on right now at WagerTalk.com?
Tonight, Joe, I've got an NBA play going. It's my NBA underdog game of the week, and we've been on a great run in the NBA, 12-2. We did lose one last night. It took double overtime for us to record the loss, but we lost last night with San Antonio. But I'll take 12-2, and I got a very live dog on the Friday night card, so check that out.
All right, make sure you do that for sure. And talk to me, Tony Mejia. How you been, man? I mean, you've been all over the place working, and of course, writing the articles up for the Gold Sheet as well as your plays here at Wager Talk. What do you got in store for us here tonight at WagerTalk.com?
Oh, tonight it'll be a little bit of MLB. Get that into the swing of things, and NBA has been running pretty good this week. Last night, I went 3-1, and the only loss was the Magic and Pelicans going to overtime, which killed my under. But, yeah, we're looking forward to this tournament concluding. I've had a great run in it, 34-13 coming in, and that's with 2 losses this week, one by a point with Arkansas that didn't cover. I thought they'd be more competitive, and the over that didn't come in because USC decided not to foul down the stretch against Gonzaga. And that was my first 5% total loss of the entire season. So I'm 7-1 on 5% totals. May break out one of those this Final Four weekend or on championships on Monday. So we shall see. But, yeah, certainly busy.
All right, awesome stuff. And, Dave, I mean, hell of a college basketball season. It's been fun here as we wind it down. You continue to dominate in the NHL. And, oh, yeah, baseball started for you. You got a lot going on, my man. What are we looking at this weekend at Wager Talk?
Well, the only thing we're looking at right now is one baseball game tonight, and I've already got a hockey game that I like tomorrow. I haven't posted it yet, but that'll be a definite play. I'll post that probably in a little bit. And that's it as far as selections that are available. We take them one day at a time. Yesterday was very good, 3-0-1, 2-0 in hockey, and 1-0-1. to start the baseball season. 1 win, 1 push, and we'll look to just maintain.
That's it. And guys, I can tell you right now, great opportunity that's going to go away here. But the opportunity for you to get mid-major Matt at Sports Memo, Marco D'Angelo at Wager Talk, Dave COKIN at Wager Talk, and Tony Mejia at Wager Talk. How about a 30-day all-access pass, just $199? That means every sport, every selection of theirs, yours for 30 days, just $199. Just head over to wagertalk.com. Pick one of these gentlemen. Of course, it'll be there on their page, and the opportunity, $199, 30 days, every selection for 30 days. Great opportunity, great way to start off the spring/summer profitability. All right, guys, we're going to dive into game number 1 here, and we're going to start with Houston taking on Baylor. And this game opened up at 4.5 points there. For Baylor, I'm seeing 5s in a number of spots as well. The total also opening up at 133. I'm seeing that continue to inch up, 134.5, even a 135 or 2 in the marketplace. So, Marco, let me come to you first here, my man. It's been a great run for Houston. I know you've had some fun, profiting with them. Is the run over here? Has it been a great season? Thanks, Calvin Sampson, or do they have a shot at upending Baylor here?
Well, I've been on the Baylor Bears this entire tournament, and I'm going to stay with them. I know a lot of people thought when they came back from the COVID pause that the team wasn't the same. They had those 4 games there where they didn't cover the spread. But, guys, they played Iowa State the first game they came back. They were a 24-point favorite. They just had to show up. They knew they were going to win that game, and they had Kansas on deck. And that was Kansas's Super Bowl. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think the pause helped this team. They got them fresh. They got fresh legs coming into the tournament. No injuries down the stretch. We saw what happened to Villanova losing a key player, Michigan losing a key player down the stretch. Baylor didn't have to worry about that. Moving on here. And I look at the body of work here in the tournament. You look at their road to the Final Four. This was a number 1 seed. But you look at who they had to beat to get here, they clearly played, I feel, a tough schedule for a number 1 seed. Whereas, although Houston had some good names on the resume, it just wasn't as sharp as what Baylor faced. And my concern with Houston right now, guys, is the way they're shooting the basketball. Last 3 games, Houston shot the basketball 37, 38, and 32%. Now, granted, they had some decent defensive teams that they faced, having Rutgers in there, having Syracuse in there, having Oregon State. Baylor is another team that's good defensively, maybe not as good as those teams, but they're still adequate. I just don't see Houston staying with this Baylor team. And my concern for Houston is in the late stages of this game. If they find themselves down 5-6 points and they got a foul, and Baylor can make their foul shots, this Houston team that was struggling will have to force up some 3-pointers. And if they can't hit those, that's when you see 4, 5, 6-point games balloon to 7, 9, 10 points at the end. And we know in these games, except for USC when they were totally getting trounced the other night, these teams don't stop fouling late in the game because there is no tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to look at Baylor. I'll go ahead and lay the points with them. And 2 quick stats on Baylor. At this time of the year, you want to compare how they did out of conference. Well, non-conference record this year, 11-2 for Baylor against the spread on the road. And Baylor, simply put, when they're on the road and they covered the spread last time, they're 7-1 in the next game. I'll go with Baylor.
Baylor it is. I mean, Dave, Houston's done an amazing job of out-physicaling and just kind of pushing teams around here with lesser athletes. You think they're going to be able to do that against Baylor in this one?
I'm not even going to talk about the matchup. I want to talk about the betting line in the game. So the projections here, Ken Palm has Baylor by 1. Haslametrics has Baylor by 1. Bartovic has Houston by 1. What's interesting there is that when all those, and they're unbiased projections, they're number projections, when they're all right there, and the line isn't. I tend to believe the odds makers have it right, and the odds makers are stating their opinion on a game. I think that's what they're doing here. Now, there's no question Baylor was going to get the ticket count here, and Baylor's going to get more money bet on them. I don't think there's any question about that. So the line figured to be a little bit off where those projections were. So if it came Baylor -3, okay, that's that factors in public perception. But it came 4.5 and went to 5. Listen, the math bettors, they're strong. They know what they're doing. They bet numbers, not teams. And they're just not coming in on the other side here, which tells me the odds makers have it right. And I think that's when the odds makers are telling you something, it pays to listen because they're not stupid. They don't make big mistakes on games like this. When they're that far off, what I think are the three of the more popular math projection sites, I will go with the odds makers almost every time unless I have a strong opinion the other way. I don't here. So for me, it's going to be Baylor minus the points.
Good stuff there, Dave. And Tony, listen, the market is speaking, right? It's pushing towards Baylor. The over is going up as well. How are you going to approach this game?
Well, I actually thought that Houston would be getting more points here because the perception, and it's actually spot on, is that they really haven't played many teams. Their road to this national semifinal has featured the near loss to Rutgers, a win over Syracuse where they were able to really clamp down, but Cuse was a double-digit seed, and an Oregon State team that upset their way to the Elite Eight. So this is one game where they will be tested. They played Texas Tech in the regular season, and the American was way down. Wichita State and Memphis were the two best teams there. Obviously, Baylor played in what would be perceived as the second best conference this season since the ACC was down and the Big Ten was the best. So I actually thought that even though the math projections have this as a tighter game, that this would open at 5.5. And instead it opened a little lower. I thought it might get to 6. So, maybe, and that's why I haven't pushed anything yet on this game officially, because, I agree with Dave, the popular vote, the public vote will probably push this line a little higher as it has already.
Yeah, Matt, Baylor's offense gets all the headlines, right? But their defense is no joke here. And Houston, we know the tempo that they're going to play at. Over, under, side, prop, where are you going to go here?
Well, so the key numbers here are, we obviously know how good Houston is offensive rebound-wise, and Baylor's 273rd against offensive rebound percentage on defense. So if Houston crashes the boards, you can hide a really bad offense by just getting a lot of closer shots. I mean, I've seen St. Louis, I've watched them in the A-10. They're not a good shooting team, but they get their offensive rebounds, and then everything looks a whole lot better. That's exactly what Houston does. But Baylor, really good offensive rebounding team, too. They're 7th. So, I think a lot of people talk about Houston, how much they crash the boards, and I don't think they pay as much attention to Baylor, who does the same thing. Sometimes I like to isolate the first halves, and there's some interesting things here. Baylor is the 8th best team in the country offensively. They've averaged 37 points in the first half of their last 3 games. Well, Houston is number 2 in defense in the first half. They've allowed just 22.3 points in the first half. And watching a lot of their games, the key for Houston is that they've just kind of punched teams in the mouth, and then they haven't recovered. You watch that Syracuse game, and unfortunately, as an alum, I watched them. They just came in. First possession, they had a bunch of offensive rebounds, and then all of a sudden, Syracuse was out of it. Granted, they made a run, but still, over time, it just wore them down. You could see the same with Oregon State. Oregon State had multiple defenses they could go to. I think one of the guys that's not going to do as well is Mark Vital. He's a 6'5" guy with some girth, but in this game, that doesn't really do anything. Against other opponents that don't have somebody that size and that weight, it's a nice thing to have. But against, Houston, who's got a bunch of big guys, I think I might be looking at some unders on Vital for this game, whether it's points or rebounds, and assists, whatever your book does, combining them. I just don't think he's as much of a luxury in this game as he is in other ones.
All right, good stuff there, guys. All right, that's game number 1. That's the first one up. And then, of course, the late game, 8:34 p.m. tip-off will be UCLA taking on the Zags, the least surprising team to be here in the Final Four against, maybe the most surprising team here, opening up 13.5. That has since been pushed to 14. It was up to 14.5 still at some places there. The total hovering around 146, right where it started. And Dave, let me ask you something, because somebody brought this up to me earlier, and I don't remember, and I know you're going to remember. But they made the comment that if UCLA were to win this game, this would be a bigger upset than Duke taking down UNLV 30 years ago in the Final Four. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It would be.
I mean, the Rebels were only like 6.5, 7, if memory serves me right.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's not even close. Here's what so now I'll talk about the matchup. The first game I talked about where the line is. UCLA has done, Mick Cronin's done a phenomenal job with this team. Absolutely amazing. And they've been so good at getting the tempo the way they want it. Basically, well, the Michigan State game was a little higher scoring, but that got to 166 with an overtime. But Abilene Christian, I know they're not much, but it's still UCLA completely dominated the tempo. Alabama was 65-65 at the end of regulation. That's clearly not Alabama's game. Michigan, 51-49, a total of 100 points scored in the game. So you look at this and say, well, we know the only way that UCLA can stay in the game is to slow the tempo, and they've been really good at that. The problem is I don't think they can slow the tempo down against Gonzaga. They look like an NBA team out there. I mean, I'm not saying they are an NBA team, but they look like one. And I just don't think UCLA is going to be able to slow them down. They might for a half, but I think eventually they're just going to get run out of the building. And so my opinion is that unless Gonzaga has a deer in the headlights moment, which I don't think is likely, or just has a bad game, I just don't see UCLA being able to stay in this for more than 20 minutes. Maybe 20, but not 40. I think Gonzaga eventually pulls away and wins this by close to 20. I don't think it's going to be close at all.
All right, good stuff. By the way, 10.5 points. That's what Duke was. They were an underdog against UNLV back in 91. Much? Yeah, it was 10.5. And Coach Krzyzewski was the only time I think he ever said I was really afraid watching their tape. Tony, talk to me. What do you think here, my man? It is 14 points here. It's 2 touchdowns. Do you think UCLA's got a shot here?
No, I don't think they have a shot to win. Will they have a shot to cover? Yeah, potentially, considering we've seen them really overachieve to this point. Yeah, I wrote them off when they lost Chris Smith and Jalen Hill. I mean, this is a team that's doing this as an undersized group with limited depth. Just the way that they've been able to move through this tournament, I thought Alabama would have their number. They blew that late. The Tide were able to tie the game on a last-second shot. Then they had the resiliency to blow the Crimson Tide out in overtime. And that's been their toughest game to date. And you can make the case that the other teams that they've played in this tournament have been compromised offensively. And that's why they've been able to lock in on the defensive end and really grind these games out. And they have no hope of doing that against Gonzaga. So I would buy that. And then there's also the variable of Lucas Oil Stadium. One team clearly feels comfortable there. The Zags were able to utilize their spacing to blow USC out of the water, given that USC had the best interior defense in the entire nation, and Gonzaga burned them from one layup after another. Whereas UCLA never got comfortable against Michigan, and comes into this off their worst offensive performance, being able to survive, but still they're going to have to find their footing against a very good Gonzaga defense that gets underrated because they're so good and so explosive offensively. So tons of variables here. And then the number is the biggest one of all because, it comes out 13.5. Everybody's expecting, what's the number going to be? What's the number going to be? You got a double-digit seed playing in their 6th game already coming up, whereas Gonzaga hasn't really been tested. So, tons of stuff to dissect here.
A lot can happen here. 14 points, Matt Josephs. Talk to us. How are you going to approach this game?
Well, I mean, for all the Gonzaga games, pretty much I've been in auto bet to the first half over because they're just insane. I mean, their last 3 games, they've averaged 46 points a first half. And of course, everybody's talking about, oh, the USC game, first number 1 2-point offense, number 1 2-point defense. And of course, they absolutely blitz them for 49 points in the first half. But you look at UCLA, and UCLA has actually been very good in the first half. They're under 30 points allowed the last 3 games. But Gonzaga's no slouch either when it comes defensively. And I don't think people talk enough about Gonzaga's defense. Now, granted, look, they haven't, Creighton, there's 2 different Creightons, it feels like. There's a good Creighton that's nuclear. They shoot all these threes. They score 80 points. They look really great. And then there's the Creighton that looks disjointed. And that was the one that showed up against Gonzaga. And I think Gonzaga is part of that. I think there might be some value here, depending upon your number and depending upon your book, on the team total under for UCLA. I think, as the guys said, like, you might get a really good half from UCLA, but I think their legs start to go in the second half. I think that you're going to see some of these guys get tired. Who's Tiger Campbell going to cover in this game? I mean, whoever Tiger Campbell covers, I'm looking at their over, and I think, and you'll see in our best bets, I think it's Joel Ayayi, and I think Ayayi is going to be the guy. Last game I had to bet on Suggs, and Suggs had a really good game. I think Ayayi, and that's the thing about Gonzaga, every game it's somebody different. We haven't even seen Corey Kispert go nuclear yet, which we know he can do. So to me, I think there's some value on playing Gonzaga's defense and maybe looking at the UCLA team total under, or in the best bets, there's going to be a certain player that I really like who I think is going to play really well for the Zags.
So, Marco, UCLA holds what? Alabama to 65 in regulation, 49 in Michigan. They just slowed it down to a snail's pace. Is that the recipe for a cover here in your mind?
Well, it's definitely what you want when you're going against a team as offensively as efficient as Gonzaga is. And guys, what I'm looking at here and listening to everybody so far, they're kind of leading into where my play is going to be in this game. And I'm going to look at a first half wager, but I'm going to look at UCLA. And here's the reasons. I look at this number of 14, and I know how good Gonzaga is, and I've wrote them throughout the season in the tournament different times. I agree with it. But, guys, they played a perfect game the other night. They looked as good as they could look against USC because USC looked bad. USC came out. That game was decided in the first 6 minutes. This is one of those misleading stats that if you look at the box score and you see that it was only a 10-9 differential on turnovers, you say, okay, that wasn't a factor in this game. It absolutely was. And why it was is because USC had 6 of their 10 turnovers in those opening minutes when they couldn't figure out this Gonzaga defense and was rattled. You give an offense as good as Gonzaga is 6 extra possessions early on, and that's why they got off to the quick start and never looked back. It's also one of the reasons why our good friend, Ralph, his rode Gonzaga first half, lay the points with Gonzaga in the first half and just watch them roll. But I'm not going that way this time. And the reason is I think this line's a little bit too high. I know Gonzaga has answered every question asked of them so far, but 14 is just a big number. They were 8.5 to USC. I'm sorry, the 2 teams we saw at the end of the season, UCLA and USC is not 5.5 points better than UCLA. So for me, I say there's value right there on the UCLA side. But do I want them for the full game? No, because Gonzaga can and probably will pull away. What I do like is because first half, you pay a premium for taking Gonzaga because they've been so successful. I'm seeing 8s and a couple 8.5s out there for a first half wager. We know what UCLA is going to do. They're going to slow the tempo to a crawl, and that's going to take away possessions. And I don't see UCLA getting rattled the way USC did. And if you remember on that USC game, that was the quick turnaround day where you only have a day in between to prepare. Mick Cronin's going to have extra days to prepare, not the normal amount because we played on Monday and Tuesday and coming back on Saturday instead of Saturday and Sunday, but he's still going to have extra time. Mick Cronin is a better coach than Andy Enfield is. So extra time, better coach, and if you look at this, what they've done in this tournament, UCLA just doesn't turn the basketball over. They've had, I think, 4 straight games with just 8 turnovers. I'm going to go ahead and take UCLA with what I feel was an inflated number for that first half, grab the 8 points, and hope they keep this game slow. And if it is a close game, one thing that UCLA does have an advantage in is Gonzaga hasn't been in any nail biters. UCLA has. The opening game against Michigan State, the play-in game, the overtime game with Alabama, and then, of course, the last game, which every possession, those final minutes, were life and death against Michigan. This is a team that won't be intimidated by the moment if it's a tight game. I'll take UCLA first half.
You talk about knock-tight games. Division I record, 27 consecutive wins by double digits for Gonzaga here. Not a lot of tight games. Marco is right. 8-6, by the way, is what double-digit underdogs are against the number in the big dance. All right, guys, it is time to quickly sort through them all and give a lead here for the best bet between these two games. So I'm going to come to you, Tony Mejia, first. Talk to me, my man. Which way you leaning here this weekend?
Well, again, I'm still going to make my decisions on both of these games, but I've got a prop for everybody that looks pretty lucrative considering it's available at FanDuel and you're getting plus money, plus 124 on Jaime Jaquez, UCLA's burly wing, getting over 6.5 rebounds. And let's start here. He played all 45 minutes against Michigan State, 38 of the 40 against BYU. Played only 34 against Abilene Christian. We know why, because that game was a blowout. All 45 minutes against Alabama and 38 out of the 40 against Michigan. Mick Cronin can't afford to have him off the floor. Mick Cronin needs him to help everybody rebound inside, considering they're so undersized. So let me break down his rebounding numbers. 6.5 sounds high for a wing. He's had 8, 7, 8, and 6 in this tournament, and is coming off of 1 of 6 game against the Wolverines, where he scored a tournament low 4 points, kind of a no-show offensively, but he still found a way to grind and become a factor. Had over 6, 7 times this season, and exactly 6 times. He had 5 plus 12 times total. Had 7 in the Pac-12 tourney loss. So this is the norm, expected role for him. I think the number's too low, especially since you're getting plus money. Give me Jaime Jaquez over 6.5 rebounds in this national semifinal.
Great stuff. Love that. All right, Matt, mid-major Matt, sportsmemo.com. Talk to us. What do you got circled for us?
So I will also go the player prop route, mostly because I think some of the lines are pretty sharp, or at least there's some good live betting opportunities. And I talked about it, and I think that you're not putting Tiger Campbell on Jalen Suggs. So I think Tiger Campbell is going to be guarding Joel Ayayi, and I think that over his points, 10.5 on FanDuel is worth a look here. You look at how many times he's been a double-digit guy, and he's only fallen short of 10 once, and it was last game he had 9. He gets plenty of shots. He gets plenty of opportunities. You have to leave somebody open on this team. The thing I would also look for is if some books start to put out points and rebounds, or points, rebounds, and assist props. He has had 6 rebounds or more in 6 straight games in 7 of his last 8. So this is a guy who gets rebounds, does the dirty work, adds a couple of assists. So if you can get a sub 20, maybe 20, 21 number on his points, rebounds, and assists, I like the over. So I'm buying into Ayayi in the Gonzaga UCLA game.
All right, good stuff there. All right, Marco, you told us that we've got first half play coming in the Zags game, but is that going to be your best bet as well?
Yeah, it is going to be. And, bottom line, looking at it, think about it for a second. If I said the comparison between UCLA and USC, we're getting basically the same number for the first half with UCLA that USC was getting for the entire game. I'll go ahead and take UCLA plus the 8, hang out and wait till Saturday. I think you'll see more of those 8.5s pop up, because when the public does come in and bet the weekend, they're betting Gonzaga. They're not betting against them, and you'll get a better number. But I like UCLA first half. Grab the points.
All right, first half, UCLA. All right, Dave, is there a play that you're leaning towards here this weekend?
Yeah, I'll go with Gonzaga. I think they're just going to eventually pull away from UCLA and just beat them up. It's funny you mentioned the UNLV Duke thing from many, many years back, where UNLV got upset. Turn back the clock 1 year from that, and UNLV beat the living snot out of Duke. I think that's what you're going to have here. Maybe a competitive game for a half, but I think Gonzaga puts the pedal to the metal in the second half, and I think they win going away by 20.
That's college basketball right there. All right, guys, there you got it. Don't forget about the 30-day all-access pass. Marco, Dave, Tony Mejia, and, of course, mid-major Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com. Grab their all-access package. That means you get every selection from every sport, every game that they select. You get there just $199. This opportunity is not going to be around forever. Plenty of opportunities, guys, to start the spring and summer season here. Extremely profitable with these gentlemen. Make sure you head over to wagertalk.com and check out Marco, Dave, and Tony, and, of course, sportsmemo.com for Matt Josephs. All right, once again, guys, let's take a look at the best bets here. We'll recap them for you in case you're just joining us. Matt Josephs, what is that, over 10.5? Can I buy a vowel? What do we got there, Matt? How do you say that again?
Joel Ayayi.
Ayayi, I love it. There we go. Marco, UCLA, give him the 8 in the first half. What is it? Jacques Jr. over 6.5 rebounds at plus 124. Tony, or was that minus 124?
No, it's plus 124.
Plus
you can get that money.
Perfect. COKIN says, give me the Zags. Take them all day. And I'm going to take a flyer. Give me Baylor to win the championship right now. If anybody's going to beat that Zags, guess who it's going to be? It's going to be Baylor at plus 350. Guys, we'll be back Monday. Whoever the final two teams are standing for our final college basketball tip-off show of the year. Certainly hope that you will come back and join us. Make sure you hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. Regardless, make sure that you subscribe to the Wager Talk YouTube page and come back and join us. Again, guys, best of luck with your plays. On behalf of Marco D'Angelo, Dave COKIN, mid-major Matt Josephs, and Tony Mejia, have a great and profitable weekend, guys. We'll talk to you on Monday. Good luck.
Lock in all sports, all plays, all 5% best bets for the next 30 days from your favorite Wager Talk handicapper for only $199 versus the regular price of $349 for a total savings of $150. Prices are already discounted across the board and no coupon is required. Just head over to wagertalk.com, pick your favorite handicapper in the experts menu, and lock them in for 30 days across all sports for only $199.